Welcome back to another episode of The Grace Between Us. I'm Pastor Lori.
And I'm Pastor Nathan Hurst, and we're on episode 54. And today we're going to talk specifically...
Are we?
We are. I had a little frog in my throat. We're going to talk specifically about the idea of Christianity and specifically our bent towards pro-life and why that's so important. And obviously, we believe as Christians that pro-life issues are something that is very important. However, we also understand there are people at the other end of different decisions.
Right.
And so we don't want to diminish individuals in that quest. So we're going to talk about that in just a minute. It's a different topic. It's something that it comes around once a year, particularly on a particular Sanctity of Life week and with the March for Life. And so we want to hit that. So stay with us, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Welcome back, and today again we are on episode 54, talking about the ideas of pro-life specifically, and what that looks like towards a Christian context. I wrote down a couple scriptures. We don't have to go into them in depth, but I wanted to just reiterate the idea that Scripture very much values the concept of life. Genesis chapter 1:27. Go ahead and read that one.
It says, "So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them."
Yeah, I mean, Genesis early on references the concept that we as human persons are created in the image of God. So there's the imago Dei, there's a stamp of God, the fingerprint of God on every human person.
Right.
And whether that's in the womb or outside the womb, it doesn't diminish that. Now, go ahead and read Job 31:15.
It says, Did not he who made me in the womb make them? Did not the same one form us both within our mothers?
Yeah, so Job is asking the question as he's kind of going through rough time, this idea that God knew him, made him in his mother's womb, and even those others that he sees, those other human persons that he's connected with. And I'm not going to get deep in the story of Job, but it's the idea that, yes, I see the intrinsic value in another person because in their mother's womb, the baby in the mother's womb, God was knitting, creating, putting that person together. Okay, go read Isaiah 49:15.
It says, "Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has born? Though she may forget, she will not forget you."
So
I will not forget you.
Yeah, though she may forget, I will not forget you. It's a super interesting statement there in Isaiah. So the prophet is saying to God's people that the intrinsic value that a mother has towards a child is so deep that the mother can't forget this baby that she's held so closely.
I mean, we can see that even all over culture now. I mean, we have women, when they get pregnant, you're instantly connected with that child.
Yeah.
You know, if we watch people who've had miscarriages, even early on, and the connection that they have with that baby so quickly, speaks to this.
Yes. Yeah. So in a generic sense, I lined those scriptures out today just to give the generic idea that life is valuable, that all life is precious and valuable. Brings us to some statistics that are kind of haunting. If you are aware, there was CDC put out a report in 2018, the abortion surveillance report, and it said that 36% of abortions are black children, while they're only 13.4% of the population. 36.9, so almost the same percentage, are from white kids or white families, and they make up 76.6% of the population. So what that means is abortion amongst black women is roughly 25% of black women in America are having abortions. Among white women, it's roughly 6.8%. So the disparity there is huge between African American women and particularly white women in general. Now, we can talk about all kinds of things. There are economic issues, which are real. We need to do better as a society in caring for people when they're in economic hardship so that they can take care of the child. We need to do a good job of giving a mother the idea that, yes, you can have this baby, even though it's going to be hard and difficult, even though it might not be the scenario that you wanted this baby born into, that you should value life.
Yeah.
The other side of that coin is dad's got to be a part of the equation. Unfortunately, fatherlessness in the African American community is at an all-time high, and I'm sure that weighs heavy on the mind of some of these women when they're faced with raising a baby alone.
I think too, the hard part is so many times we get Christians as a whole get so hell-bent on no abortion, no abortion. They don't think about, hey, what can we do to help the situation? Not just yell at somebody and say no. Say,
that's right.
What's the situation? What is going on? Why are we seeing this trend? I mean, we have to get to the root of the issues rather than just stand there and say no. Anybody can shout.
That's right. So because this issue and guns, this issue and the issue on gun control are very politicized issue, and they have really weird consequences when you look at the data. So anytime that abortion starts to become more and more legislated and limited, unfortunately, generically, abortion go on the rise. So more and more abortions happen in America, which is incredibly awkward. It's because of how we politicized it. The same thing's actually true with guns, though. The more and more people talk about gun control and taking guns away, then the more gun sales go up. So it's kind of this idea, and I'm not saying that we should not advocate for pro-life issues. I'm not saying that we shouldn't someday relook at relitigate Roe v. Wade. I think we probably should because we have much more advanced technology than they had. But there's this weird thing built into our culture that it's like the more we shout about it, people go, oh no, I need to get this done now, because if I was on the fence, it like pushes them over. Yeah. And I think that's part of the problem in the conversation. And it's part of the problem with the statistics that I just read. I'd read those on purpose, because the disparity amongst the races and how we have or look at abortion, the disparity amongst socioeconomic groups and how abortion happens. One of the problems is we are shouting very, very loudly, don't do this, don't do that, give me my rights, give me the opportunity to choose, whatever, and we're not looking at the human factor.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the biggest problems, and I think it's one of the problems that the scriptures address very clearly. Focus on the human factor, and then let's talk about statistics. Let's talk about how to implement these ideals. Let's change the narrative in culture. Let's change the narrative of how we talk about pregnancy, how we talk about teenage pregnancy, unwanted pregnancy. Let's reshape the narrative in general, and that's not happening. Right. What's happening all too often is we're yelling and screaming about our point of view, which causes somebody else to get incredibly shaken and thinking, I've got to make a rash decision because someone's going to force me into a box that I'm not ready for.
I think, too, we don't value humans across the board.
Oh, no.
Sure, we advocate for the unborn. That's important. But we also should advocate for the woman who is going through the situation that makes her think that this is her only option.
That's right.
She is valued as well.
Yes.
She has, dignity and worth.
Yes.
We should be able to look at her and be like, okay, she's not a bad person. She's trying to figure out life for herself. She's trying to do what's best. And she's trying to work through these things too. And so often we just get so cut and dry and we act like they're, horrible people. Yeah. But that's not what it comes down to. It comes to the value of humans.
So we have this weird political divide with this issue where we're on the one side, it's like all abortions should be illegal and all abortions should be severely penalized under death, where part of me agrees with that. Like, okay, yes, abortion should be totally legal. I would love for there to be no abortions and no need for an abortion. However, how do you put to death, by penalty of death, a 16-year-old girl who makes a bad decision because somebody impressed on her that this was her only out, right? And then how do you put a doctor in jail who a mother is literally going to kill herself unless the doctor takes the baby, or at least is threatening to the extent that everyone believes it, and then what do? Do you let her kill herself and then thereby killing the baby? Do you save the mother? Like, some of these are not easily answered questions. Now, I understand those are the very, very fringe, right? I understand the majority of the time when someone has an abortion, it's for very specific reasons. Unwanted pregnancy, meaning that they can't care for the child. They don't believe they can care for the child. They're not in the economic situation where they believe they can care for the child, or they feel as though it's not the right time in their life. That's the one that I can't stand the most, right? So I don't care if you're going through college and it's going to interrupt your plans. You set yourself on this path. Whether you anticipated being pregnant or not, you did. And so you need to have some sense of personal responsibility. Economic situations, we need to help as a culture and as a society and a collective. We need to help people through those moments. If you're in a scenario where you don't think you can raise that child on your own, then there should be other options afforded to you, like adoption. That's a very viable thing to do, is to save the life of the baby and adopt, even though that's even hard on the mother as well. We understand there's trauma that comes with that. So I don't think there's an easy answer to some of these things, but I think the fundamental place where the church has to come is first to say, we support life.
Right.
We want to do everything we can to help you. And then we need to steer away from this crazy argument that says anyone that's pro-life doesn't really care about mothers after birth. They don't care about the mother's prenatal care. They don't care about the baby after birth. That stuff is ridiculous.
Right.
Even if we change policies and social services, whether it's food stamps, whether it's housing, whether it's whatever, it doesn't mean that people are saying that they don't value life. It might mean that we're looking at changing a program based on its effectiveness. But to dismiss the idea that pro-life people by nature don't care for life after the womb is insanity. These people and these organizations do all kinds of things to help folks and individuals who are in hardships, who are in hard times, who are running up against a brick wall and don't know where to turn. There's so much aid given by pro-life people to folks in desperate and dire situations. It's unbelievable. I hate that argument. I cannot believe it's part of our public discourse because it's just not true. Now let's have a real argument. Are there real things that people face? Yes. Are there real issues that would cause a mother to think that her only out is abortion? Yes, absolutely. Is there biblical reason to ever have an abortion? No, but let me put a caveat there. There are some abortions, like a DNC abortion, where the baby is for all intents and purposes dead in the womb, and we have to talk about viability of life. There is a very hard case where mothers have to make the decision, the life of the child, the life of the mother, which one do we save? On that end, let those individual instances happen as individuals. Don't lump those into the argument and talk about all abortion, because most abortion happens out of convenience. It's not the right time for me. Vast majority of them happen for that reason. But we need to come alongside people, teach, train, educate, and empower them so that they value life and so that that life that's valued has its best shot in the world.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest. I mean, I was even kind of uncomfortable to even talk about it because I know it's such a hot topic, and it's a topic that people get very excited about quickly.
Very quickly.
We're not here to say, people are terrible. People were just saying we value life.
Exactly.
We're saying that we value life no matter who you are in this situation.
Yes.
No matter what choices you have or haven't made.
Yes.
You are valued and you are loved. And, we all need to learn. We all need to work together and can't just make these judgments and just
Well, it's both sides, right? It's the church side that looks at an individual who either is planning to have an abortion or has had an abortion and just wants to rail and knock them down because their value of life is so high. And I get it. Like, you want that baby to have a chance. However, there still is the human person that we're dealing with, not just the baby, the mom and maybe extended family who have to be cared for, nurtured, and loved. And then on the other side, the people that are pro-choice, for lack of better terms, because I don't want to use pro-murder or pro-abortion, whatever, those individuals, it doesn't mean that pro-life people don't care for folks post-birth. Yeah. There might be a different philosophy on how we care for people, but that doesn't mean we don't care for people. So we have to understand that we're really, generically, I think pro-life, pro-choice people at this stage in the game are most of the time talking about the same issue. Now, there's some crazies out there on the fringe on both sides, but most of the time they're talking about the same issue. How do we best care for people? Right. Well, our understanding as Christians is our best care for people is the intrinsic value of life that every person has. Let's go after that first. Let's teach, train people that life matters. Let's go after that first, and then provide the necessary support that we need to help these people along. Yeah. Right? That's the goal anyway. I don't think we're always perfect at it. I don't think the church is perfect at it. I don't think society's perfect at it. I think there are people that get overlooked for all kinds of reasons, but we still need to come back to the table that life is important.
We had someone in to speak at the church this last week, and I thought, a lot of the stuff I had already heard, and it was good reminder of that. But what really kind of was a great reminder for me is, she talked about how important life was and how much we value life, and we want to advocate for life. But and whether that be an individual who comes to you and they're pregnant, they don't know how to handle that. The church needs to rise up and be there for them, not just say you can't do this, but we're not going to help you.
Yeah, and individual
and then
church communities.
We also need to make sure that we're there for the person who made the decision to have the abortion. We need to be there for them even more because of what they have just gone through.
Yes.
And so when they come to the church, they're seeking healing. They're seeking support and acceptance.
Yes.
And when we turn them away saying, oh,
Your sin is too egregious for the cross.
We're saying that their value doesn't matter at all. And so that was such a great reminder for me, because that is where the church gets caught up a lot of times, and they just hurt people. And that is not what the church should be about. And that is not what people should feel when they think of the church or when they come into a church. And so, if you hear anything today, it is to show love no matter what situation
no matter
people are
what
in.
situation. That we love people regardless even of some of the hard choices that they made, and maybe some of the devastating choices that they made that we might not have made.
Right.
We still love people in spite of that. The facts are, in New York City in 2015, there were more black children aborted than were born. Think about that for a second. Martin Luther King's, Barack Obama's, LeBron James, how many were aborted? How many have continued to be aborted? It's a huge, staggering issue. 2019, the estimated number of abortions was a single leading cause of death in the world. So this is still a very prevalent, real issue. We're having, I think the March for Life on Washington, D.C. is happening today. I believe the president is speaking at it. I actually think that's a good thing. Whether the president is pro-choice or pro-life, I think it's a good thing that he address the world on that type of a stage. And I say, how could a pro-choice president address those groups? Well, many pro-life or pro-choice senators have partnered with pro-life people to get objectives done in regard to sanctity of human life, in regard to the value of life. Yeah. I think we can come, regardless of how you label yourself, I think we can come together on both sides of the argument and start to do better in caring for people. Yep. We need paid maternity leave as my kind of more of a standard. We need not paternity only, but maternity leave as well, or however you say
Well,
that.
when it's all said and done, no matter whether you believe, in pro-choice, pro-life, it's not going to happen overnight.
No.
And we have to work together to do what's best.
Yes.
And so, at the end of the day, we can't just blow up and freak out all the time because we don't have our way right now.
Yeah.
We have to work together and we have to figure it out. And
I think we have a generation of people right now who are having this conversation enough that eventually we can have a civilized dialogue. Okay, where does life begin? That's always the big question. When is it appropriate? In the Old Testament, there was this idea that if a woman were supposedly cheating on her husband, the husband thought she was cheating, but there was no proof of it, that they go to the priest, and the priest could make this little concoction. She could drink it. If the baby died, then obviously she cheated on the husband. If the baby lived, then the husband had to raise the child as his own. There are people that have taken that scriptural context out of whack and said, look, even the Bible isn't definitive on where life begins. No, that's not at all it. The Bible was given kind of a mythos or a mythology and saying, listen, we don't have the testing, like DNA testing like we have today, to prove who the daddy is. Like, they had baby daddy problems back then too. And one of the ways to fix that was this kind of throw caution to the wind, this kind of it really wasn't a religious practice. It was kind of what do you call that? I don't know. It was kind of a made-up practice by the priests to settle people in their community. Yeah. And it wasn't a biblically concrete, like, this is the law of practice. It was, we don't have anything better to offer, so this is what we're going to offer. And so you can't take that and say that the Bible doesn't definitively say when life starts, because there's way too many scriptures that say life starts in the womb. Life starts at conception. Now, you might argue the viability issues and all that stuff, and that's not the point of this. The point of this is to direct both sides of the argument to say, let's work together. How can we best solve this issue? So how can we bring the number of abortions down while caring for the best number of people in our societies, in our communities, so that we all level up as a culture and society and quit arguing over this thing? Yeah. Because I don't think this is something we need to keep arguing over.
No.
I think this is something, if you're not into a culture of death and you're not into killing babies, right? If that's your thing, then we're going to argue it for a while. But if you're not into killing babies, then we need to come to a place where we can best set cultural standards to help each other so that we make the best decisions possible as individuals for our culture, and so that in doing so, we still value life. Right. That's really what it's about. So
we've been long-winded today.
I know. It's a good one, though, and I hope it gives you an opportunity to think about some things. And I hope we brought up some nuanced ideas that maybe you haven't been thinking through and milling over. Mm-hmm. And you have any questions or comments, or you want us to maybe dive deeper into some of these things, let us know, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But we thought it was appropriate, since the president's talking about it today, we thought maybe we should, even though it's a hard topic. But we're very much for life and value life, and we very much want to see everyone everyone choose life if at all possible, if they can stomach it, take it, whatever they need to do to get through that, to give that baby that chance. And we also want to be there to help you through those hard times. Even when you have to make that hard choice, we want to help you and see you through, because we're not here to see through you. We're to see you through in all aspects of life.
Amen.
Amen.
All right.
All right. Join us on all the socials at The Grace Between Us. Like, subscribe, whatever you need to do. Share this with someone if they need to hear it. And we will see you next time.